The year is 1984. You're a regular human being on a camping trip with 3 of your best friends. You're all wearing bright colours, dancing the cool disco from a boombox in the middle of a very dense forest. People did whatever the hell they wanted back then. After a night of stories around a campfire, you decide you're going to take a short walk alone under the full moon. What's the worst that could happen? But as you walk past a particularly large bush, you hear a low growl coming from within the leaves. You decide to investigate, but as you get closer, a huge beast lunges out from the shadows, tearing into your flesh with its massive claws. This wolf is enormous, far bigger than any creature you've ever seen before. Despite your screams, help arrives too late, and the wolf has already run off into the forest before anyone else could see it. One of your friends calls for help on his comically large 80s cell phone, and you quickly rush to the nearest hospital. At first it seems like you'll be okay, but unfortunately for you, that was no normal wolf. And you don't know it yet, but your life as a regular human being has just ended. The curse of the werewolf begins with blood and pain. The doctors in the hospital try everything, but no matter what they do, nothing seems to help the wound heal. It's excruciating, and it feels like your blood is on fire. You have dreams about moons and dogs, which you put down to trauma, but it's much more than that. Your journey to becoming a werewolf has begun. Over the following days, the infection travels through your bloodstream and you experience what seems like a severe flu. You've got a fever, chills, muscle aches, and vivid nightmares of blood-red moons and wolves howling in the dark forest. Gradually, your fever becomes incredibly high and your skin is almost too hot to touch. Traditional werewolf lore explains this as your body fighting the curse, a battle it ultimately loses. After a week in the hospital, in a feverish, half-asleep, half-awake dream state, you wake up feeling perfectly fine. Maybe even better than before. Your mind is clear, you feel agile and full of energy, and somehow the bite wound has completely disappeared. The doctors are stumped at how it could have vanished so quickly. They run tests and find nothing. You're even healthier than you were when you first arrived at the hospital. That night, while you're looking through some of the hospital paperwork at home, you accidentally give yourself a paper cut. But by the time you reach for a bandage, the wound has already healed. If you didn't know it already, you do now. Things have changed. Moments after, you start to feel all the other changes, like your sharpened senses, which are so strong that they feel like your head is about to explode. The scent of food being cooked from your neighbor's house half a mile away hits you like you're right there standing in their kitchen. You can hear conversations through walls, heartbeats across rooms, and the skittering of mice in the attic. Bright lights become painful, and sounds like high-pitched noises or crying babies cause actual physical pain. These enhanced senses, which will eventually become advantages, initially isolate you from normal human interaction. As you struggle to process the sensory overload, your appetite changes drastically. You develop intense cravings for raw meat, sometimes finding yourself salivating at the butcher's counter or while passing a steakhouse. Vegetables and processed foods become unappealing, even nauseating. Your body requires significantly more protein and calories than before to fuel the changes happening within. The physical changes manifest next. Your nails thicken and grow faster. Body hair becomes coarser and more abundant. Your teeth, particularly your canines, appear slightly larger and sharper. These changes are subtle enough that others wouldn't notice immediately, but you certainly do. Your strength and stamina increase noticeably. You can suddenly lift heavy objects with ease, run further without tiring, and recover from physical exertion way quicker. But that's not all. Your emotions change too. You find yourself quicker to anger, more territorial about your personal space, and strangely drawn to establish dominance in social situations. Some werewolf lore attributes this to the wolf mind beginning to assert itself within your human consciousness. The wolf doesn't understand social niceties or complex human relationships. It only understands pack hierarchy, territory, and threat assessment. These new instincts clash with your regular human socialization, creating an internal conflict that brings mood swings, irritability, and some occasional aggression. You grow isolated from friends and family as you turn into a person they don't recognize anymore. Your boys from the camping trip earlier, they don't really want to hang out with you. They think you're kind of a dick. But all of these changes pale in comparison to what happens during your first full moon. In the days leading up to it, your symptoms intensify. Sleep becomes nearly impossible as restlessness and anxiety build. Your joints ache constantly as bones prepare to reshape themselves. Your skin feels too tight, itching from within. Then, the night finally arrives, and it's one of the worst moments of your life. The first transformation is agonizing. Unlike the quick, almost magical transformations you see in movies, a real werewolf transformation is a horrific process of bones breaking and reforming, muscles tearing and rebuilding, and skin stretching to accommodate your new form. The pain is so extreme that many werewolves lose consciousness almost immediately and wake up naked and alone in the middle of nowhere, none the wiser about what they did when they were in their wolf form. Lycanthropy, which is the condition that causes someone to become a werewolf, can cause vastly different forms of werewolves depending on the strain of the curse, the werewolf who passed it on, or even what part of the world you're in. Some werewolves look just like a normal wolf, but absolutely massive and with keen intelligence. Others become bipedal wolf-human hybrids, able to stand upright but also move on all fours with tremendous speed. Luckily for you, you're one of those bipedal wolves, which seems like the best of both worlds. Not that you remember it the first time. In the beginning, almost no human consciousness remains while you're in wolf form. You pretty much just black out. The quote-unquote wolf mind takes over, and it operates on primal instincts and drives. Things like controlling your territory, hunting, and survival become your only concerns. As I said, newly turned werewolves have basically no memory of their actions during the full moon. You might wake up miles from where your transformation began, sometimes covered in blood with no idea whether it's from an animal or a human victim. You only get brief fragments of memory that seem so distant and hard to read that you're sure it was just tiny snippets from a dream. This loss of both your control and your memory is potentially the most psychologically devastating aspect of lycanthropy. You never know what you might have done while you're not yourself. When you're in human form, you find it safer to just assume that you've done something horrible and prepare for the worst. You're constantly waiting for a knock on the door from the police, or worse, some kind of werewolf hunter or angry mob, and your life will be over. However, all is not lost. Eventually, the more experienced werewolves in your area notice prey going missing, and they track you back to your house as the source of it. Instead of just eliminating you, they offer to teach you the tricks of the trade to tame the wolf mind, that part of you that's in control when you transform. You see, unlike vampires, werewolves are inherently social creatures. Belonging to a pack is one of the most important part of your wolf desires, which is probably why you felt so empty up until now. With their teaching and enough time and experience, you'll not only be able to remember what you did when you were a wolf, but maybe even control it. Still, as your training begins with meditation, journaling, and drinking 100 different herbal remedies to try and train your mind, the lunar cycle still dominates everything about your existence. As the full moon approaches, your symptoms intensify day after day, peaking at the full moon itself when transformation becomes unavoidable. Your werewolf friends claim that particularly old or powerful werewolves can transform at will, regardless of the moon's phase, but even they can't resist the pull of the full moon. Your entire life reorganizes around this monthly cycle, scheduling work, social engagements, and travel to accommodate your condition. Finding safe places to transform becomes a constant concern. You need somewhere isolated, secure, and with enough space for the wolf to roam without encountering humans. Some werewolves invest in remote cabins or reinforced basement chambers. Others seek out deep wilderness areas, traveling far from civilization before the moon rises. Some even try tying each other to trees in the forest with chains, but that rarely works. The risk of discovery is constant. Employment becomes pretty complicated when you have to miss work entirely during full moons. It's pretty hard to lie to your boss about why you keep disappearing 12 times a year. Close relationships are also difficult to maintain when you need to keep such a big secret and regularly go off the grid without explanation. And if anyone even thinks to find a pattern between you and the full moon, which wouldn't be hard, it won't be long until a werewolf hunter is on your case. You live in a constant state of paranoia, always looking over your shoulder and never knowing just who could be onto you. Luckily, you have a new pack to lean on, which is the defining characteristic of werewolf society. Being the social creatures they are, they operate in a hierarchical system. A lone werewolf, called the Omega in the werewolf community, is vulnerable both physically and psychologically. Your wolf nature craves pack interaction and stability, and without it, controlling transformations becomes borderline impossible. Pack structure typically follows an alpha, beta, omega hierarchy, although some modern werewolf communities reject these terms as oversimplifications. The alpha, traditionally the strongest and most experienced werewolf, provides leadership and protection for the pack. Betas form the core of the pack, or the middle class, while newer members or those of lower status hold the omega positions. This hierarchy isn't just social,